A common desire for individuals today is the want to be better. People want to have better habits, be better with their money, treat others better, and the one that seems to rise above all, accept themselves. Now, people have found multiple solutions to these problems, but one that is the most faulty of these are self-help books. The idea of a simple book telling you what to do to better your life is not only alluring, it sounds too good to be true. And it is. There is no one-step solution to being better. There is no set list of things you can do to better yourself. The self-help book industry is largely harmful. According to Grace Selinsky, an accomplished author for the Michigan Daily, quote, "Each book contains the same fatal flaw. The assumption that everything wrong with your life is your fault, and your fault alone. This subtle underlying theme of everything being your fault can very negatively affect almost anybody. So, how does one begin the process of bettering themselves? Well, allow me to introduce you to someone who you are most likely unfamiliar with. This is Carl Jung. He was a Swiss philosopher who invented his own branch of philosophy named after himself. Now, while his theories are large and complex, for the sake of time and clarity, we will use a base definition of just one of his concepts. That is the shadow. The shadow is, quite simply, the parts about oneself that people stifle. Think about selfishness, greed, anger. These parts have a lot of overlap from person to person, but there is no set trait that is always attributed to the shadow. But how are we going to use this idea of the shadow to better understand how to become the fullest version of yourself? Well, that's what I'm here to talk about today. We are going to discuss how recognizing the shadow would benefit everyone going through three main landmarks. Recognizing how the emotions you oppress is good, how social norms shape one's shadow, and a few examples of people who accepted their shadow and what they were told to oppress and how it made them a star. So, let's talk a little bit more about repressing your emotions. Why do people do it? Why is it unhealthy? And how does it tie into the shadow? Well, to begin, people largely oppress their emotions because it's easy. It leads to an immediate result. If you don't think about it, it's not there. And another reason is the idea that you are not wanting to draw attention. People are afraid of pulling the focus from anything to themselves, with the idea that if they do, it will be viewed as a burden. And while the logic is understandable, this is not a good long-term solution to any deeply buried emotions. According to Noam Spencer, a published writer and doctor, avoiding a negative emotion gives you a short-term gain at the price of long-term pain. This is a direct connotation to the shadow, as your own emotions can easily become a repressed idea in your brain due to your own preconceived notions of how others will react to them. The benefits of accepting your emotions are many. The main reason you should accept your emotions is because they are part of your shadow. We will get to this solution in the aforementioned article by Spencer. This reason is recognizing your emotions will confront you with the reality of how you feel. When repressing your emotions, you attempt to change how you really feel about something. For instance, you're out with your friends, and they decide to order a pizza with pineapples on top. They ask you if that's okay with you, and your first instinct is, no. That is not okay. You don't really enjoy pineapple on pizza. However, in an effort to please their wants, you say, that's okay. You tell yourself that it'll be okay, you'll be the bigger person. But that does not change how you feel about pineapple on pizza. You still dislike it. This is also true with any facet of the shadow. If you feel a certain way and try to suppress it, it doesn't make your original feelings on the topic any less true. If anything, by suppressing and trying to change how you actually feel, it makes you less of yourself. This is ultimately why discussing the shadow is so vital. Without recognizing it, one shifts their life off the rails, becoming a person they believe society wants instead of the person they want to become. A solid and pertinent example to myself of this is David Lynch. Now, I am a massive David Lynch fan, and this is largely because his films being unapologetically him. He sees a creative vision, and he makes it exactly the way he wants it. But what happens when the master of being themselves gives up some of their control? a massive studio flop. In 1984, David Lynch released his film adaptation of the science fiction book Dune. However, he had no control of the final cut, aka what is or isn't in the movie out of what they filmed, which ended up ruining the film, turning it into what he even admitted in an interview with NPR caused him to, quote, die a death. This is an ultimate example of what letting other people dictate what you do causes, a massive failure and a disrespect to you. But now that we understand why understanding and allowing your shadow to eat is a net positive for your own psyche, what makes up your shadow beyond the emotions you stifle? As we talked about, there are no set factors to the shadow. It is a deeply personal and self-formatted section of your being. However, the things that formulate it largely stay the same from person to person. The most common restrictions are the social norms. Though I'm sure you all have your own ideas about what social norms are, none more incorrect than the definition I'm about to give you. I'll give you a little baseline so we're all on the same page. According to Dan Pilot and Sekul Kravastev, social norms are defined as informal rules that guide behavior within society. Now, social norms are not bad. Without them, we would be lacking any society or culture, but they do tend to lead to people repressing parts of themselves that they are afraid society may deem unwanted. Due to this fear, people all throughout time have been forced to suppress their true selves in favor of fitting in. However, fitting in is a harmful concept. According to Dr. Livy Carville, a counselor and trauma therapist, you are pushing aside everything that makes you unique to mold yourself into this perfect person that you believe you need to be. Carver also brings up how this will negatively impact your self-confidence, as most people never see their change for others as enough, and will continue repressing their true emotions in favor of, quote-unquote, fitting in. But there is a light at the end of the tunnel. Fitting in is a dying concept. So often today, we see people on any scale going against social norms in favor of what they want to do, being their own unique person. They create their own roads, live their lives without fear, and are not afraid to express themselves as they see fit. That is accepting your shadow. Accepting how you feel, understanding why you feel that way, and understanding that your shadow, no matter how hard you try to repress it, is a part of you. However, what are some pertinent examples of people who have accepted their identity and paved a path for people that feel the same to follow suit? Well, a very famous and prevalent example of this is David Bowie. The glam rock star was a master of reinventing his persona, becoming a new version of himself. I couldn't say it any better than Tom Reardon did in his article in the Phoenix New Times. He showed us that it was okay to try different things or discover new sides of yourself. Because Bowie was so often creating new personas and found parts of themselves that were repressed, people dove into those new experiences and found themselves, brought them to light, and became a more whole version of themselves. Another example of a celebrity claiming part of their shadow is Chappell Roan. She is an unapologetically queer pop star. She, over the course of the last 3 years, has become a voice and a safe space for the LGBTQ community. When the question of how she came to this role is posed, the answer is simple. She is herself. She embodies her queerness, increasing not only the visibility for the community, but increasing the representation. Roan makes the people that are uncomfortable with their sexuality comfortable by accepting what she thought would not be accepted and showing others that they are not alone, that they are seen. This is the power of the shadow. Being able to see someone accept parts of themselves that one previously perceives as undesirable and learn that it is okay to be yourself. If you remember at the beginning of my speech, I talked about how self-help books are a scam. Well, after that, I have talked to you about how the shadow forms and how people today are allowing you to recognize it. But how do you recognize your own shadow? Feed it and allow it to have the space it needs, making you a more complete version of yourself. And as much as I would like to reply with a quick action, a one-word answer that you can implement into your life seamlessly, like the self-help books do, I can't. With your shadow being uniquely formed to yourself, A one-step solution could only exist by every person growing up and living in the exact same conditions. It is impossible for any one person's steps to achieving and accepting their shadow, and ergo accepting themselves, to work for you. However, Jung had a term for this process of bettering oneself. It is called individuation. And while this is another big and complex topic, I'll show you a small definition. It is a process that lasts your entire life and one that has no set boundaries. The biggest and most important step: accept yourself. Every single part. The good, the bad, the desirable, the undesirable. Every single part about you. That is the secret. Once you learn to love every part of yourself, you will be fulfilled. Now, obviously, no one person will ever fully be able to accept everything that they feel or everything that other people have done to them, but you must continue to try. Every single person in this room can be better. You just have to keep going.